My career sucks.
Sex just isn't the same.
What's my purpose?
Where did this fat come from?
My relationship is killing me.
I'll never be happy.
My debt is piling up. I'll never find love. Why can't I be like other gay guys? Hey guys, it's time to get a grip, stop whining, make a bold move, and do something amazing with your 40-plus gay life. Let's get to the show with your Tell It Like It Is host, Rick Clemons, who does his best to never act like a dick or a diva unless you act like one first.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of 40 Plus Gay Men Gay Talk. It's hard to believe we're already moving along in the year and get lots of episodes put out. I want to remind you to join our men's chat that's happening every month on the third Tuesday of the month. Go to the website to check those out. But what happens when we don't talk about certain things? Things that are kind of important that gay men tend to ignore. And I know I've said that many times, but we're going to go a little bit deeper into a couple of spaces today with my guest, who is an Emmy award-winning journalist. He's done a ton of stuff in TV. He's a freelancer. I just got to tell you, he's been all over the place, but he's also somebody who's willing to be. He told me before we started recording this, he's an open book. So I'm going to go open that book. But what we're going to focus on is something that guys don't talk about this at all in our community, or very little. It's like kind of that self-perception. And then where does that self-perception lead you to? Maybe not taking care of your body through eating disorders and things like that. Or maybe you go through a big divorce and suddenly you find yourself going, okay, well, that's hit me here. Now I'm going to go jump into some other behaviors that actually don't serve me. He's got a podcast called The Tangle with Kyle Ridley, which helps men really realize they're not alone in any of this, in what they're experiencing. And I can't wait for you to get a taste of Mr. Kyle Ridley. So welcome to the podcast, man. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you, Rick. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So he's coming in from DC, boys. So don't hold that against him. It's a good space to live in, and you've done a lot, man. Like I mean, just being on your website and looking through everything, you have been playing in that entertainment world for a lot of years. So how did you get that started? And then where did this other piece of the puzzle that I brought in, like the eating disorders and everything? And then sorry to hear you went through a divorce, but I think it's something important for us to talk about as gay men. Like, yeah, we got marriage equality. Guess what? That means there's also divorce might be looming. So let's start with your work. How'd you get into that, buddy?
Yeah, I've always been into journalism. I studied it in high school and college. I majored in journalism and grew up in the Northern Virginia area, right outside of DC, and wrote for the local paper in high school, and then maintained those print journalism ties all throughout my 20s, freelance reporting for newspapers, while I also worked in like government stuff here in the DC area. But in college, I interned at NBC in LA, and I interned at the Dr. Phil show in LA. And then by the time I was 30, working in technology and still freelancing, I got that itch. I was like, nothing's really wrong, but I'm missing a piece of passion that I really want to tackle. So I was like, let's give this broadcasting thing a try again. And for the last decade, I have worked in local news in the DC area, local ABC, and then local Fox, not Fox News. And it was mainly producing morning shows. So those 3 a.m. wake ups and producing like the 9 a.m., 10 a.m. hours, where if you think of like a Today or Good Morning America, it's the same. Right. It's serious stuff. And then you lighten up through the hour and get through, fun celebrities and food and drink. So I've been doing that for the last 10 years. And then last year I left morning TV and started my own media company and my own podcast, where I get to interview these people long form for 30 minutes, an hour, whereas in TV, I was prepping anchors to interview people that I loved for 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Yep. So it's nice to be able to dig into those conversations and get into the underbelly with some of these guests. And as far as the relationships and eating disorder stuff, I mean, those all come into play as well. But as far as work goes, that's how I started out, and that's where I am right now.
I think it's so interesting to hear you talk about this career. And anybody who's listening, actually, the guys know in my other world, I help professional speakers, get their speaking business off the ground. One of the things I always said, and they're like, well, how do you get on a morning show? I'm like, it ain't everything you think it is, because you're going to be so excited. And then they're like, well, you got about 5 minutes. Well, you don't really have 5 minutes. You have 3 minutes to come on that interview and say those things you need to get. It's such an interesting space to play in. And I've been on a couple of morning shows. I was on the Ricky Lake show years ago, and it was like a whole different experience. And people don't realize it's like, let's get it done. Let's go. And what you think you may be talking about with the producer, when you get on there, it may not go exactly where you're going whatsoever. So
no, like not at all. Yeah, that's what I did
on Grindr, right? It's those same
exactly.
sort of
and
thing.
That's what I did. that was my favorite part about the morning show was booking these guests, and I would prep them
Hmm.
and get to share their stories and sort of amplify their voices. So now that's what I'm kind of doing in my business right now. I help clients get on TV because I have all these contacts throughout the country,
Yeah.
so I know how to pitch people, how to prep people if they want media coaching. So that's the part I love. I didn't like the 3 a.m. wake ups to report on the administration and the DC
Right.
murders, and I was like, I can't do this. After the election last year, I was like, I can't do this again.
No, no, it's too much. It's too much. So good stuff in your work, good career going on. So let's kind of step into the thing that really most men don't talk about. Let's just go down the whole eating disorders thing. And, just kind of, I've had friends who've been through it, but take us a little bit on that journey, man, because this is something most gay men do not talk about.
No, and it's been lifelong. I think most men, if they have struggled with it, and women, it's been
Hmm.
a journey throughout their whole life, and it will continue to be. I don't think you're ever healed from an eating disorder.
Hmm.
It started probably in my teens in a light sense, where I was always the chubby kid, the chubby gay kid, and in the 90s, uh, it's gotten progressively better through the decades, but the 90s was pretty hardcore with
Yep.
bullying and just no media representation, no one accepting you. And so I was bullied a lot. I was feminine, even though I wasn't out or anything. People knew this guy's, the gay kid, and then you're
Right.
overweight. And, you went through the 90s heroin chic era, and everyone was wheeling out their fat Oprah with all the weight they lost, and every
Right.
tabloid was how to lose weight fast. So I was always inundated with that. And then I saw a couple people in my family struggle with eating disorders, so I kind of knew that was a thing. And so
Hmm.
I was the type of kid who would always start a diet on Monday, and it would be whatever was the fad that week, Atkins or the Zone diet or those Nutrisystems or lemon water. And
Hmm.
it would last a couple days, and then I would fall off the wagon. And then I came out around 17 and moved out of my house because I was in a relationship with someone, very serious relationship at 17 with someone much older than me. And that could be a totally other episode right now. But,
Yep.
it was the early 2000s. I was 17. I was dating someone who was in their 40s. I moved in with them. And I think along the way, I lost myself and we both lost each other in that relationship. And I turned to food and
Hmm.
particularly binging and then purging. It was more bulimia for me rather than restricting. And I think eating disorders, you'll read about it, it's much deeper than food or
Oh, of
weight. It's
course.
about control. And I think I was out
Yep.
of control in my life and my emotions, even though I was graduating with a 4.0 and had a good career. Something just wasn't right. And I lost myself, and I really lost a good most of my 20s just consumed with this eating disorder that consumed my every day. I had no social life. I went to work, I went to school, and my other time was focused on eating and binging, and somehow managed to meet people and date and met my husband along the way there. But it's been struggles for decades, and I've been in recovery about 12 years now. The last time I
Hmm.
purged was in 2014, but I didn't really talk about it until a year or two ago. I made a post on Instagram,
Hmm.
and that was really the length that I've gone. Now I'm finally made a goal this year to actually speak about it with others and not just make a post once a year on the anniversary, share my
Yep.
story more. So that's where I'm at right now, hoping to help others.
What a brave journey. And I mean, this speaks to anybody who is, I'm just going to kind of say in the addiction recovery world, I've got people in all walks of life, but I feel like there's something a little bit different when it comes to what you're sharing here because it's really hidden. Most people don't know that anybody's doing this. We've seen this in all walks of life, but I think it's something that can be really hidden pretty easily versus alcoholism becomes very obvious. We've all said, oh, what a messy drunk, right? Um, Other addictions. I mean, I've been through addiction stuff with a couple of family members, and it was pretty obvious. But I don't think some of what you're speaking to, Kyle, it's not as obvious. And then you layer on being in the gay culture, there's a whole other thing like, oh, they're just, they're a skinny little twink. Well, you don't know what's behind that. And being Mr. Chubby guy myself, raising my hand there, guys. It is not an easy journey. It is not an easy journey whatsoever.
No, it's a disease of secrecy and
Hmm.
isolation. I I've posted about like there's a difference between secrecy and privacy, whereas privacy is a bit more about respect and I'm keeping that to
Yeah.
myself. It's my own. And then secrecy is pretty wrapped in shame. And I was hiding from everyone for years and years. Even my former husband, for the first couple years, he did not know. I think he could tell that I was a picky eater and I was
Hmm.
thin and maybe had some food concerns, but he didn't know I was gorging every day and purging and doing it all
Hmm.
in hiding and hiding groceries. And
Yep.
um, it was scary. I had no social life throughout my 20s. I was
Wow.
focused on just being home and hiding and you live for that fix. It's like it's what comforts you. It's your devil, but it's also your angel because in a way you find that addiction is what's soothing you. It's what's relieving the stress of life, but it's such a vicious, nasty cycle,
Yeah.
particularly bulimia. It's also just very it's gross to think about. It's gross to talk about. You don't want people to know what you're doing in
Right.
private.
And it's interesting. I had, gosh, it's probably been 5 years ago. I had a client who he was very much heading down the path of sex addiction, right? And then out of the blue one day, he goes, I have something else that's a secret that I want to talk about. I'm like, okay, you know, everything that I had learned, I'm like, okay, we're going down another, is there some other twist in this sex addiction stuff? And he goes, the way I do sex and hook up, hook up, hook up, and then isolate and go, no, not going to do it. And I keep it all secret. I don't, nobody knows in my world that I even hook up with people. They all just think I'm looking for Mr. Right. And he goes, and then I'll hook up, hook up, hook up, hook up. Okay. So I knew that. He said, I think I figured out something through your coaching that I can tie this whole way I do hookups. I said, oh, okay. He goes, I hope I don't gross you out. I'm like, I'm a coach. I'm not here to judge. And he goes, it's very similar to my bulimia. And I thought, oh, how interesting to kind of put those two things together because he would eat and purge. And he goes, I kind of do my sex life on hookups the same way. I go, 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 go. And then I'm like, oh, I'm not purging anything out of my system, but kind of. He goes, I'm purging the need to go and do sex every day, 3 times a day, 4 times a day. And I thought, this is fascinating. And we did a lot of work around that. So I'm glad you're sharing because it isn't an easy thing to conversate about. And I bet you
No,
get a
and
lot. I mean, if you do, I'm sure there's probably been some shame and support as you've shared. Have you felt the
yeah,
shame?
and some like secret, quick messages from people that are also battling it but don't share it, and that
Hmm.
uh, those similarities do make sense to me when you think about the sex and the bulimia. You're filling up on something that you think is comforting you and satisfying you, and then
Hmm.
you fill up on it so much that you are disgusted with yourself and you need to
Yep.
rid of it,
Hmm.
and that's all shame riddled. And
Hmm.
then the next day you start again
Right.
because you've eliminated it and now you're empty and now you need to fill up again. And it's just a very violent cycle.
Yeah.
It's
And I
hard to
guess
get
it's
out
a
of.
Right, but I guess it's the same in drug addiction and sex addiction, alcohol addiction. But there's something interesting because, like, I just referred to some people who've been in my space. I would have never known that they were having some of these problems, right? I mean, especially the one in my world that was hooked on marijuana. I never saw it, never, felt it. Alcohol was a little bit different with the two people in my world, but it's not like, oh, they just get messy drunk at times. They just get messy drunk at times until I realized one day that one of them, I'm like, I think they've already been drinking and it's 9 o'clock in the morning. And that was the first signs I started to see. So what moved you and helped you start to really address this? Let's talk about, you said you're in recovery, which that's a thing that I wish more people would just embrace, that this person is using that, not like, oh, look at me, look at what I've done. It's more, here's how we anchor in. What got you to move into the recovery space?
I think fear, because I had hidden it for so long and it was catching up with me. Um, the two most important people in my life at that time, my mom and my husband, they just were not aware of the extent. My husband wasn't aware really at all. Just he thought I was thin and didn't eat that much and was particular. And my mom knew that I had struggled with bulimia, but we hadn't lived together in many years. She didn't know the extent. And then she would see me at a family event or see photos of me. And
Right.
I did not look healthy. I was 30, 40 pounds lighter than I am now, and I'm still light. I She had a conversation with my husband, and basically it was sort of like an intervention where she filled him in on
Hmm.
everything because she was scared that I was gonna die. And he confronted me, and I did not go to in treatment. It was recommended that I did, and I didn't. I think I was so again controlling. I wanted to control my own narrative, my own recovery.
Hmm.
So I don't think there's a right or wrong way. I know people who have done it with in treatment, out treatment, therapy, cold turkey. However you get help is just
How
what
you
works
get
for
help.
you.
Hmm.
My main goal is just for people to first admit they have a problem and share it
Hmm.
with one person because I didn't share it with anyone,
Hmm.
and that was the first step. So that fear of losing my marriage, losing my life that I had built so hard. I was proud of my marriage and my house that I had and my family, and I think I also got scared that I would really never recover. It was getting to the
Hmm.
point where every week, just like a diet, it was like, okay, well, I will stop binging on Monday. I will stop purging on Monday. I'll become healthy. And years go by, and it's like, oh, maybe I'm never going to recover from this. Maybe this is too hard and this is just going to be my life. That scared
Hmm.
me. And so that's what forced me to get help. And I did go to therapy, and I did stop April 1st, 2014, and have not purged since then. And just like an addict or you
Hmm.
go through withdrawal, I will
Yep.
still have dreams sometimes that I have binged a lot and oh, I forgot to throw up or I need to run to
Hmm.
the toilet.
Yep.
And then I wake up, it's like, oh, I don't do that
Yep.
anymore.
Right.
But it stays with you forever. And unlike alcohol or drugs, you touch food every day.
Exactly.
You can not touch food and alcohol for the rest of your life, but I don't think you're ever healed. You're never recovered from food because to think that, oh, I'm totally good. I don't care what I eat. Everything's fine. That doesn't work that way because your brain has been wired a certain way. And then after you stop, your brain is wired to focus on nutrition. So I learned a lot about that and exercise.
Right.
So I'm aware of everything I'm putting in my mouth. There are certain days where it's like, I feel disgusting. I ate too much. I ate foods that are quote unquote bad foods, which none of them are.
Right.
But I know I'm going to feel a little blah and gross and go to bed, but I know I'm not going to run to the toilet. I know I'm not
Yeah.
going to starve myself. I mean, and now you know, there are days where I eat just super healthy. There are days where I work out most days. It's just a
Hmm.
balance right now.
Yeah.
But it's not a secret anymore. People know who I am now. I'm not isolating anymore.
You know, I know I've talked about this, but it wasn't until you just talked through that. I came out in 1999 and went through the divorce with my ex-wife. And of course, I'm like, okay, got to get, oh, got to get good looking and everything. And I wasn't that, I mean, I'm much bigger now than I was back then. And I have a photo, one of the first photos I have with me and my husband of being at the Getty Center in Los Angeles. I am so thin in that picture. And even my parents at the time who were not accepting, in fact, when they saw me the first time, they're like, "Oh, we understand you're sick." I'm like, "I'm not sick." Oh, well, we just figured since you're living the gay lifestyle that you're sick. And now there's a story behind that because my uncle did pass away from HIV and AIDS. And as you were talking through this, I realized there was kind of a weird food addiction for me, so to speak, because I literally was living on top ramen and wine because I had no money. I was having to support two households, but I never let anybody really know that until, I mean, I've talked about that. Oh, yeah, I used to live on top ramen and wine. But the way you were just talking through it, I'm like, that was an interesting little food secret I was keeping from everybody. And that's why I lost so much weight. Stress on top of it, but stress and exercise. But it's interesting how we may not see these things in ourselves until we see, as you said, we see them in ourselves. And that's what the doorway that opens up.
Yeah, I think I just was lost in myself. I
Hmm.
seemed so good on the outside. I
Yeah.
was a TV producer. I was a journalist. I was making good money. I was speaking with celebrities and had a nice marriage and everything was sort of going for me. But I think I didn't really know who I was. I think I was just finding myself and I had no community.
Yep.
That's one thing I think that I also struggled with because I was in very serious relationship from 17 to 23 when I was with
Mhm.
someone 20 plus years older than me that I probably shouldn't have been with at that age,
Mhm.
as a teenager. And then I was with my ex-husband for 12 years, but I yearned for community. I was not involved in the gay community until I was probably in my late 30s, which is only a few years ago, going through my
Mhm.
divorce.
Mhm.
I just felt so outside of the gay community. I didn't know how to connect. My friends were family and like close
Mhm.
girlfriends, and
Right.
I just struggled with who am I? I want community, but I feel so outside. I don't feel like I look like them. I don't feel like I act like them. And now, unfortunately, it takes a few decades to really get to know yourself. So, in the
Yeah.
last 3 or 4 years have really been about finding my tribe, finding like-minded people that I can grow old with, these gay men, not
Yep.
just straight women that are having families and then you disconnect and that you don't see each other as much.
Right.
I That was also a contributing factor to my divorce. I needed to find my tribe and be with people that I was comfortable with and I can start sharing more of myself with. I think I yearned for deeper conversations and
Mm-hmm.
just uh, yeah, the friends that were like
Hmm.
me.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up because, and thank you for sharing everything you just shared because I know there are, as you know, as soon as you share your story, there's people like, hey, I hear you. You see me. I'm, all that sort of stuff. But you just shifted to something that I think is one of the biggest things that most gay men are struggling with, whether they want to admit it or not, which is I hear over and over again from my men's group and my coaching, like, I don't know how to find connection. I just don't know how to create friendships. So let's shift to like, you've been successful getting there. What are some of the things you've done to connect and create that friends circle, those connections in the gay community?
So I started at the end of my divorce. I would say the last year of my marriage because I don't want to talk too much about my marriage because we're not in touch anymore. But we were monogamous for most of our marriage, and then in the last year started exploring,
Mm-hmm.
maybe as a last resort. But we were also in couples therapy for a while, and so in that exploring phase, I was like, let's go out, let's meet people, let's build a community. And one thing that I think is good about growing older is it is true when you hear people when you're a child, you always hear people, oh, I hit a certain age and I just don't give a shit anymore. By the time I was 38 and going through
Yep.
everything, I did not care what people thought of me. I didn't care what I looked like. I didn't care who I approached. So that
Yep.
having that confidence really helped. They call me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a TV producer, but they call me the producer of our friendship group. I have no problem organizing, gathering people. I just needed to put myself out there and start doing it. Once I made that leap, a lot of it was on the apps. I signed on for the apps for the first time in my late 30s, communicating with people, talking with people. Hey, let's get a coffee. Let's get a drink. Finally going in DC and going to the bars that I had avoided for decades
Mm-hmm.
and talking with people. And I kept a list of every single person that I met over the last few years, and it's hundreds. And no,
Mm-hmm.
these aren't hookups, these are getting to know people. And that
Mm-hmm.
might seem like a lot for people that aren't very social, but I was isolated for many years too. I didn't consider myself a social butterfly, but you
Yep.
force yourself. What's the worst that can happen? You're going to meet someone for coffee and they're not going to want to meet again, or you're not going to want
Right.
to meet again. It's fine. That's
Exactly.
fine. There's a whole world out there.
There
So it
is a
started
whole
with
world.
that. It started that with that one by one, and then having my friends meet each other, and then having people invite me out. And now I have like a trivia group that I go to every Tuesday. It was just MAL weekend in DC, which I
Mm-hmm.
was not that familiar with, but I've been the last couple times. So you get to know all these people. And yeah, there are some stereotypes about the gay community that I was probably fearful of growing up. Like, oh,
Right.
it's all one thing. No one's one dimensional. We're all multifaceted. Yes, there's this community and this community and this community, but we can always run the gamut of all of them and find something in common with everyone. So it really just was putting myself out there and not being afraid of rejection, especially with dating. Just I think going through a divorce, I don't want to say hardens you, but you
Mm-hmm.
realize what you can go through when you really put to the test and being resilient. And also just with age, that comes with dealing with health concerns, dealing with losing people in your family the older they get. You realize there's such a bigger grand scheme of what you should worry about. And making friends and talking with strangers and finding people that you're in common with shouldn't be a
Yep.
concern. That should be
Yep.
fun. It should be fun.
It
And I
should be
found it to
fun.
be fun. Yeah.
Well, and I feel I'm pretty. pretty outgoing, but there's times that I'm still the wallflower. And then when I see my inner wallflower coming forward, I'm like, okay, what's causing you to go to shrink back to a little chubby boy who nobody, who had to like prove himself to everything? And I had that little conversation in my head, Kyle, like, what's causing this? You're really good at just talking to strangers. And that's when I go, okay, channel that. You're really good at talking to strangers. And it's not about anything there's no destination. It's just a conversation. And I found that's a really powerful way for me to be in the world is, hey, there's no destination with this conversation. Let's just see where it goes. And then you'll be guided. But yeah, there's lots of people I meet in different situations where I'm like, oh, not my cup of tea. No, no pun intended, not a cup of coffee or anything. And and you can almost feel it like when it's not really working between you and somebody else. It's kind of like, okay, this was nice, but I don't think we have a whole lot in common. I feel like so many gay men don't give the opportunity because, quote, so many of us have been like, it's just about sexualized. Let's get the sex. Let's get to the sex. But what about let's get the connection first? And I can tell you that that's a challenge in many areas. Guys don't know how to connect. And I think you just laid
It's
out some
true.
really good stuff to like help them do it, and it takes practice. It takes muscle. I tell the guys all the time, it's a muscle. It's a
It
muscle to work
is.
the connection and the friendship muscle.
I was a wallflower for everyone. And even related to my TV career, I was the behind the scenes producer. And,
Hmm.
that was also part of starting my podcast with being able to talk to people and step out. But like at a bar, I remember in my early 20s trying to go to a bar and just standing and waiting for someone to talk to me and couldn't approach anyone. That was like the most fearful thing. It was lump in my throat. Just
Yep.
I it doesn't cross my mind now. And I think I also can just see people. I can empathize with people that I see and figure how they're feeling and how I used to feel. So when I'm in a group with people and we're at a bar and we see people alone or wallflowers, I'm like, guys, let's invite this kid over.
Hmm.
I might not connect with them, but hey, come have a drink with us. Maybe they'll
Right.
connect with someone else.
Yep.
It's just we put so much pressure on trying to fit in. It's almost brings us back to high school, and we need to get out of that high school, middle school mode
Yep.
much faster. I think maybe this new generation might be, but I think 80s, 90s kids, we went through a lot, and a lot of it was
Yep.
hiding who we were and having to hide who we were. I mean, we
Yep.
didn't haven't been able to get married. It's only been the last decade.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that's such an interesting thing to realize is, in fact, it's kind of ironic because as we're recording this, I'm doing my first men's group of the year tomorrow evening, and it's about silencing the inner critic and healing the young wounded gay man. And so much of what we're talking about is that we still haven't quite healed our younger gay man. And so if you're standing there in a crowded bar or afraid to go to a meetup or something, or even go to a trivia at a local, coffee house that may be gay owned or something, your little child is sitting there going, do you really want to do that? Are you sure they're going to see you? Somebody's going to. We got to learn to have the better dialogue with the inner child and all the other things that we have, contended with, whether it be bulimia or, alcohol or sex addiction. Or, I mean, I was right there on that cusp, man. I mean, the amount of sex I was having, I was like, oh, wait, time out. Something's got to give here. So,
Well,
so
yeah, and then
now,
growing up for me, being a bit younger than you, I was raised to be so fearful. So I was scared of
mhm,
sex for a large portion of my
yeah.
youth.
And I think those are the
Terrified.
things to admit what we're actually really scared of. What we're truly scared of. I mean, I remember the day, and yes, you are younger than me, so you can just call it out, right, Kyle. You can just say, "You're an old man, Rick." No, I'm kidding.
I'm 41. I'm 41.
Okay, well, I'm 62, so there's a big difference. But that big difference is, I remember the days when we went to go get tested for HIV and AIDS. Here's your number. They'll call your number. No names are meant. No, no. I mean, and you waited for 2 weeks to get the results. And when you went, you kind of like sitting there like shaking. So is this going to be the time? Is this going to be? I mean, it was a whole different world. And I think sometimes these are the growth spaces. And I'm so glad you came on to share with this today, because sometimes we just got to grow into what we're meant to go be. We've been trying, and now suddenly, to some degree, I don't give a shit. I
Mhm.
really don't give a shit in a lot of things anymore like I used to. I don't need the stuff that I thought I used to do. I still have fun. I want all that sort of stuff. But there's so much I don't care. And not in a bitchy sort of way. I'm like, that's okay. I don't care. I don't need that in my world. So
We've been through enough.
so much.
We've been
Exactly.
through enough. And the ex that I was with when I was 17 to 22 was 20 plus years older than me, so would have been your age, in his mid
Yeah,
60s right
yeah, yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah.
So of the same mindset, and he battled severe mental depression, and
Yep.
it was about not fitting in, not feeling like he communicated or connected with the gay community at all. That was,
Hmm.
and me being 18, 19, I did not know how to fix that in him. And I also think
Right.
that rubbed off on me like, well, I don't fit in either. And he actually ended up committing suicide, not while we were
Mm.
together. But my hope is just, I do have a lot of hope for this new generation because it has gotten a lot better. There's still work to do, but I'm heartened by shows like Heartstopper and Heated
Hmm.
Rivalry, and there's so much representation now. But
Hmm.
we were made to feel like such outsiders, and in a lot of ways jokes,
Hmm.
when people, 40 plus for
Yep.
sure, especially in the 90s. The media representation we had, it wasn't even until the late 90s it was Will and Grace, but before, we
Hmm.
had Matthew Shepard we had to worry about.
Right.
We had the movie
Exactly.
Boys Don't Cry where
Right.
Hilary Swank's getting murdered. It was a dire time, and
Hmm.
I hope people remember everything we've been through because it's been a
Yes.
lot. So we have to keep that alive. But I'm
Yeah.
very hopeful for this new generation. I see them when they're out.
Hmm.
They're much more carefree,
Yeah.
which is good.
Which is good. So I love that you're doing what you're doing. What would you most like? What's like the next big thing you'd like to be doing for you, your life, to keep this message alive? What's next things for you on your adventure, do you think?
I really just want to keep on sharing my story. I don't see myself going back to a 9 to 5. I think
Hmm.
I've done that. Now that I'm in my 40s, it's sort of becoming a gig economy where I'm just
Hmm.
putting my hands in a bunch of different buckets and trying
Yeah.
to see what I can do for myself. I think, I've been tied to corporations forever, and being able to speak freely and speak with people that I want to speak with is what I'm loving. It's not a big money maker right now, but again, confidence that things will fall into place as they should. Much more confidence now instead of fear and anxiety over the future. I think we've been through a lot, and we'll make
And
it
we
to where
won't,
we're
we're
supposed to
not done
be.
going through a lot. That's the
We're
thing. And I
no,
think
and
the
we're not.
beautiful thing is everything that's the bit we've been through a lot is what helps us for the next time we need to go through a lot. I've always said that,
Yeah.
you
And
know.
one thing I always ask everyone on my podcast is how they're maintaining hope. And I'm finding
Hmm.
I always find myself to be hope filled, even in the darkest of times. And I'm finding hope in other people's hope, which I think we all just need a big, heavy dose of right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, if people want to connect with you, where's the best way? We'll have everything on the website, but I always like to shout it out. What's the best way to connect?
Yeah, well, definitely the podcast, The Tangle with Kyle Ridley, wherever you get your podcasts. And then I'm most active on Instagram, which is just my name, Kyle Ridley with an underscore. And then I'm on YouTube and TikTok. If you
Hmm.
just search my name or The Tangle, you'll find me there, but trying to cover all the bases.
Yeah, yeah. We kind of whore ourselves out all over the place to get attention these days,
Yeah, or, and
but it's
you'll see
fun.
me in DC
That's
at the club.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. Well, Kyle, thank you so much, man, for coming, sharing, being honest, giving all of your story, and giving hope. You say you ask, how people stay in hope. This is how we keep people in hope here on this podcast: is sharing our truths, just saying, "Hey, I'm a guy over 40, and here's what's gone on for me. Here's where I see myself going." And you have truly helped contribute to. Here's another way forward. So thanks again,
Thank
buddy. And
you.
guys, go catch his podcast. I listened to an episode yesterday in preparation for this, and it was really good. It was really fun. And hey, if you got somebody in your ear, you're probably doing the right thing and moving your life forward. So thanks again, Kyle. So appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you. Always keeping hope. And connect with me if you ever want to talk about eating disorders or anything. I am an open book, finally. So ready
Yeah.
to hear from
Yeah.
you.
And we're an open book here too, guys. If there's something you want to hear on the podcast or something you really need, please don't hesitate to let me know. Again, I'm out there everywhere too: Instagram, Facebook, all those places. And obviously, you can always email rick@rickclemons.com. That's where I get a lot of my stuff. So thanks again, everyone, for being listeners. And Kyle, and just in another week, we will have another episode moving you all through your 40 plus gay life. Take care, everybody.
That's a wrap for 40 Plus. Gay men, gay talk, where size doesn't matter. We drop our bullshit, get over our screwed up fears, make bold moves, and live life without apologies. Don't forget to join us on Facebook at 40 Plus, Gay Men, Gay Talk, where the conversations continue.